Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you to raise the bar on your own performance and to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's episode.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Nonprofit Exchange. This is Hugh Ballou, founder and president of Center Vision Leadership Foundation. Not every day is a good day with my voice. Today, it's the frog voice, so you get a variety today. My guest today is a special new friend who's doing some important stuff for our younger citizens. So, Jay, tell people who you are, your background, and what's your passion for doing this?
So basically, my career has been in journalism. My early part of my career was in journalism. And I was pretty much from day one, which meant when I was 21 years old, I was an alternative journalist. And that came out of my sense that both from a semi-dysfunctional family life and seeing a lot of quibbling and tension around, and an early sense of racism as well, that the world could use a big fix. And I was always interested in what was going to make a better world. So one of the things I discovered early on, when I wrote a series of first about LSD being used in mental health treatments, among other things, and then about drug addiction being treated with post-Freudian techniques, and where I sat with a lot of group sessions, it confirmed for me something I already sensed, which is that human dysfunctionality, pain on an individual and collective level derives from lack of skills, not lack of character. And that the circumstances we're born into and what that came to known as the hierarchical kind of training passed from generation to generation of child rearing is actually the cause, and the effect is the world we know, the individual pains we know through, the relationship pains we know through, and the facts we have, ultimately Ukraine happening now and nukes pointed at our head. It's a mindset and it's a way of dealing with the challenges that has to go historically or we're not going to survive. So I saw that and I became very interested in the human development movement as well as all other kind of journalism. And flash forward a few years, and I started the LA Weekly, which I grew to be the largest weekly newspaper in the country. By then, I'd been participating in a number of human development workshops. And we were the only urban weekly in the country that covered the human development movement on a regular basis, as well as all the other things we did, like getting the air cleared up in California. I think our journalism, we won loads of awards, and we were a major cultural force in Los Angeles, transformative force. But I also early on became a social entrepreneur, which meant I was interested in doing grassroots work and helping grassroots organizations going on boards and starting my own organization. So I've started 6 nonprofits that deal with elements of social change. The early ones dealt with poverty and hunger in LA and human rights abuses in nearby countries. But I followed this path, and I actually learned how to be because I took a master's degree program in spiritual psychology out of interest. And I found I had the skills to do this. So part-time, I was coaching people, and it just proved the point. It's a skill set. If I train people in a different mindset and a different skill set, they'll act differently. So they'll behave differently. Their lives will change. Their self-images will change, etc. And then about a dozen years ago, I learned about these programs and practices at that point, 35 years ago, had been regularly developed, brought down to school levels, and allowed for a lot of very, very subtly sophisticated, often gamified practices to teach kids how to deal with the stuff that adults go into therapy with long before they have to go into therapy and before they're neural nets are so trained into reactive behaviors and judgmental behaviors on other people and on themselves. And I went to a bunch of schools and I saw how remarkable it was. And I decided that the next time I start a nonprofit, I would look to start a nonprofit to help forward this movement. The movement is called social emotional learning. It's a piss poor name in terms of marketing, kind of brain deadening, but it was developed by academics and child psychologists. But the evidence-based work that they were doing, the tests, the improvements, where they brought in outside investigators or survey people, were pretty remarkable. And just seeing kids in these schools who had these experiences, which we can show in a few minutes, some of the kids, were pretty remarkable. So I decided that I was going to go forward with this, and what was needed was two things I had the skills to provide. One was public awareness, getting people aware of this, and particularly getting parents aware of this. And the second thing was helping on the grassroots organization, because it was fairly weak. There were two or three good organizations, but there was work to be done there as well. So I started the Equip Our Kids campaign in 2 years, and take it from there.
So you call it social emotional learning.
Social and emotional learning, or social-emotional learning. Yes.
Is that a replacement for what we see in education as an addendum to it? How does this factor into?
So it factors in as one, a curriculum, and two, as a culture. And that's a great question. So as a curriculum, it's like taking kids from 2 and 2 is 4 to quantum physics. So they'll start them out very early on with some easy self-awareness practices and emotional awareness practices and emotional management practices, and being aware of others' emotions and how to respond to them, right up to very sophisticated conflict resolution skills, collaboration skills, self-achievement skills, where your traumas and your seeking peer group approval in unhealthy ways, or your reactiveness is interfering with your ability to learn and to achieve. So it's a set of skills under still the boring label, largely under the boring label of social emotional learning. The second most used one is character development around in the country.
Yeah.
We decided, we did tests on all these languagings, and what we found, what worked was, in terms of parents and public, and as clickbait, basically, to bring people to our website, was the idea of linking emotional intelligence, redefining it as the ability to manage yourself, your life, your relationships and career in healthy, brilliant ways that lead to success. So then we did a lot of, here's the skills you get, skills we need, here's the outcomes, and that became clickbait. In time, the general movement started picking up on our languaging, and so morphing some of their languaging about social emotional learning. We get to social emotional learning as a second stage, which is, if you want this for your kids, you got to when you go to your schools, most likely you're going to have to use the word social emotional learning, or SEL, because that's how they call it in the education world. There's a survey that found recently, done last year by a conservative organization, Fordham Institute, that found that if you list the skills, you can get 80, 70, somewhere between 75 and 95% buy-in on each individual skills from parents, Republicans, Democrats, the spectrum. If you mention social emotional learning, everybody hates that word. No, I don't want that for my kids. So
there's an understanding of that, and there's probably an education component for the parents with that. So it
needs to be, yes, that's what we work on.
does this work in the context of public education, or is this an add-on where people register for private school or even after class learning?
So here's the breakdown on that front. Parents are overwhelmed mostly in this country. COVID made it super overwhelmed, right? So they're following whatever they can grab for best practices at home. Very few schools, although it'll be a growing movement now, the movement's growing, are bringing the parent in to give them a fairly good education about this in advance. So to date, it's been, okay, this is happening in schools for my kids. I like it or I don't like it. It's great. But kids go home and find that they're actually teaching the parents more than the parents are teaching them. That's some of the history. So the next wave of this movement, and it functions in waves. The current wave is using this now to deal with the serious, critical mental health crisis, but more than half of kids are experiencing. So, but it's an inevitable way that parents will be brought into the field and learn more about it going forward and be able to adopt more of the practices at home. We curated from the best home stuff. We don't create programs. We only promote programs on a pro bono basis. We don't pick and choose. We curated on the website a toolkit for parents that they can start looking for, one of the 40 or so we list that might be most helpful to them and relate to their family situations.
So you started a nonprofit. So tell us about your nonprofit. It's called.
Well, the major nonprofit is Equip Our Kids,
yeah.
Which is showing on the screen now. Yeah, to Equip Our Kids. This is the
people that are listening to the podcast. You can go to thenonprofitexchange.org and look at the page, and we'll have this image for you. So excuse me. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. So we're seeing, this is the way we work to bring parents and the public and businesses in particular into some level of awareness and some level of action steps about moving this movement forward. So we're trying to decode what it is and make it palpable and viable for people to get, understand, and then give them a choice of things they can do to move this forward. 2 years into this, as I learned about what's happening on the grassroots level, I found that there was dear to my heart was a group called the Massachusetts Social Emotional Learning Alliance, which had brought together educators who supported this, program providers, and a small range of community organizations doing, working in underprivileged areas, and brought them together to promote it in their states on the district level, state school education department level, and legislative level. And we've been making real progress in Massachusetts. So I had them mentor me, and I brought together a group of organizations in Los Angeles. We had 30 in the room. I piped in the people from Massachusetts. At the end of it, 25 of them said, well, let's do this. So we found the Social Emotional Learning Alliance, which I ran for the first 2 years, and then, thank God, found a great executive director, spun it off with its own 501c3, and now we're up to 2,600 members and making a real difference in the state.
Wow.
Yeah.
Equip Our Kids is your primary, and so that other side is what?
The Social Emotional Learning Alliance for California, and it's SEL. Social Emotional, SEL, numeral 4, CA.org.
All right. So
there are now 21, just now, they've been growing over the years. We've been helping them grow across the country. We provide a lot of media for them and business planning and things like that. So now we're up to 21. For the last 2 years, there's been an umbrella organization, SEL, numeral 4, US.org, that we work with very closely, including in our approach to businesses. We go out together. Our team handles it, but we go talk to businesses on behalf of both organizations.
That's pretty powerful. So
Mm.
that's a significant impact. So let's talk about the results of the work. I think you have a video or two that we could share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so rather me to talk about it, let's if you would share the first video we discussed, so people can get a sense. We made this, and not only we made it,
Surgeon
but we
General
customized
declared
it.
America's first ever youth mental health crisis as a result of COVID disruptions. He urgently called for widespread expansion of social emotional learning to help students deal with their pain and dislocation. Kids are struggling more than ever today, and parents are looking for help. When schools add emotional intelligence learning and other valuable life skills to the curriculum, not only do their emotional lives and learning ability improve, they develop key skills that parents want to teach at home. Based on a recent survey, here are some of the success-oriented life skills that nearly 9 out of 10 American parents want taught in their schools. How to set and achieve goals and solve problems. Approach challenges in a positive, optimistic, and resilient way. Manage their emotions, behaviors, and relationships in healthy, effective ways. Make good decisions that are ethical, honest, and responsible. Develop self-confidence with the ability to think clearly, be creative, and communicate extremely well. Navigate social situations with grace, empathy, and understanding. Only 25% of schools teach these and other life skills comprehensively today, but the need is greater than ever. Most call it social and emotional learning, or SEL. Some call it character development. Either way, the outcomes are usually what every parent wants. Double-digit increases in test scores and dramatic improvements in overall learning. Depending on the school, up to 90% dramatic declines in bullying, violence, substance abuse, digital addiction, and suicides. Healthy student emotional and mental states in an atmosphere of respect and caring for each other. Research shows that this type of education produces successful and happy adults with much greater life, relationship, and career success, and far lower rates of negative adult pains, physical, mental, and economic. Be sure your schools are teaching these valuable life skills. Visit equipourkids.org for tools you can share with teachers and use at home.
That's great. That is great. So that's a multi-dynamic, it seems to me that our society as a whole is gravitated toward the IQ measurement, which is memory comprehension. And that video triggered the work of Joy L. Guilford, the structure of intellect, where you measure creative thinking, problem solving, all the different aspects of it, the intellect. So this sounds like emotional learning is in that camp where you're exploring all of the thinking skills.
Right, exactly right. And businesses are catching on, not as fast as we'd like, but there's a movement in businesses to hire for emotional intelligence. Google's studies are there where they broke down teams of IQ high and EQ high and gave them similar projects to do, were pretty meaningful within the larger culture, because it said, okay, confirmed, we've really got to hire for more emotional intelligence and kids who have these skills.
I noticed we have a colleague watching online, Bob Hopkins, who has the book Philanthropy Misunderstood, but he also has Philanthropy Kids nonprofit, and he does a philanthropy youth conference. And we found that even the really young kids, 7, 8, 9, inspire their parents. I noticed you
Yes, it's true.
So we're educating, and in 40 years of church music ministry, which would be the same in the synagogue or any kind of setting, we work with the children to teach them some fundamentals, and the parents gravitate toward that higher bar. So anybody that functions up impacts everybody else in the group. So it's system thinking. So I was fascinated. What stories do you have about how the children influence others, including their parents?
Well, if anybody goes to our website, can see a ton of videos. We have 2 or 3 different video pages, including some we made of full classes, and watch how children start relating to each other in really caring ways, supportive, co-supportive ways, appreciating the other person's qualities rather than finding them fault with them.
Mhm.
And that sense of safety means that they start doing project-driven learning together. They get involved in their communities together. It's just a higher way of living. You may want to share. Might be a good time to share the one of the other kids so people can see some of the outcomes. What some of the kids are like after they've gone through these programs.
Okay, ready?
SEL stands for social emotional learning.
Well, I'm trying to get to making it bigger. Sorry.
Oh, well.
That donate button was covering it up. So let me see if I can nuance that little thing. I just need to move the video up a little bit. Sorry. It's here we go.
Yeah.
Here, get it going. Here we are.
SEL stands for social emotional learning.
It teaches people about how to deal with your emotions and basically helps you through life physically and mentally.
It helps me calm down and become a better person because I have to be able to work together with people.
It helps us communicate in a better way.
It really helped because a lot of bullying has stopped in the school.
My dream is to become a leader, to do something great, and these skills are going to help me to reach out to other people, to be able to connect with them in a different way.
If SEL was all around the world, it would be amazing because everybody would be kind to each other and everybody could teach everybody. There would be no wars. It would just be the most wonderful world we could have.
My school life without skills, the social and emotional learning skills, would be kind of hectic, because not only would I not know what's the right way to handle a situation, but my peers wouldn't either. So a lot of issues and a lot of conflicts would escalate instead of being resolved.
These core values stay with you for your whole life, so therefore you can communicate better with other people, you can work together better, you can listen and be open to other people's ideas. There's a lot of things you can do.
Really nice, to be able to show people that you're a teenager who's not just some random kid running around. You're someone who has respect and you care for things and you care about your community.
I think it affects what happens at home because I can be really caring to my sisters and brother. If I treat him really well, he treats me back well.
I think it's very good because I didn't know very much about empathy and how you can treat it to other people, and now I know because of that program.
Nobody really wanted to talk to people. They were just kind of in their own shell and didn't want to come out and talk, and when this came, they were all...
Everybody really had to greet each other to get to know each other.
And communicate, and it just helps a lot with anger problems and knowing people better.
You also learn lots of 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, getting your work done on time.
I think every school should have a little bit of character education because when you get out of school, you can not only be book-wise, but you have to also be people-wise.
Oh my, what a profound video. I mean, you and I don't need to be here. That says it all. So these kids ought to run for Congress. I mean, now, not when they get to be adults. So
I was with school one of 10-year-olds at once, and they were doing a conflict resolution circle. And I thought, after I walked out, I thought I put those 10 kids right in the White House today.
That's great.
These 10-year-olds, rather.
That was great. So, what do you want people to do? This is inspiring, and you run a nonprofit, and of course you need volunteers, but there's a call to action. What can people do to support this really worthy cause in terms of actions?
Well, for us, it's awareness and buy-in, and then action steps by the people who have the influence to have this. So everybody's got some influence. So we created I don't know if you can put it on the screen, but we created do one thing for social emotional learning. So it's a menu of things you can do. It may be just taking one of our messages and putting it on your social media and say, hey, this is cool stuff. Our payoff isn't in money, though we, of course, we love donations, but need them. But our payoff is really in people buying into this, knowing about it, buying into it, and then saying, I get it. I want to see this in our schools, and I'll do, if I have to, whatever one little thing I can do to move that forward, help with awareness.
That's profound.
Uh-huh.
Do one thing. If we had everybody doing one thing, what a difference it would make. And then you could do it again tomorrow.
Right.
and the people you impact. So what can I, well, go here. So there is this, it's Equip Our Kids website, and there's a page on that website. And if you go to thenonprofitexchange.org, THE nonprofitexchange.org, then there'll be the link for that page. Just do one thing. And so it's really breaking it down like that, Jay, is so smart. So how will this, you're championing this. So you set up a nonprofit, two of them really, so that you could really make sure this continues as a legacy after we're gone. So you've built a system for this to continue. And it's probably more than social emotional learning. It's a movement to empower.
Yes, it's definitely a movement.
People
it's a
like
historical movement to take us out of the way we're trained to be in the world, which is very frequently not healthy. Or reactive stuff.
Amen.
That's why you have mass drug addiction. 25% of Americans are on meds at some point. We're medicating rather than fixing at the core. The core is exactly what I said, how we're trained to deal, the skills we're taught or not taught, or the missed skills we're taught to deal with the real challenges of life. I should put in the chat a link to my lecture about this, which takes you through the step-by-step childhood development stage.
I'll put that.
Everybody can relate to it because oh my God, I did this. This is my coping mechanism, and then this was my picture I had of myself that I was for. Yeah.
If all of us could just manage ourselves better. And
let me see.
It's basically what you're teaching here. So I will have these links on the page for this interview. On the Synervision Foundation, when you go to thenonprofitexchange.org, it'll give you a page and you can click on a link there and it shows you all the archives and choose this one. And also wherever you get a podcast, you can get the Nonprofit Exchange or wherever you get your podcast. And in the notes on your phone, you'll also have the links there. I'll put those there. So Jay,
sorry.
And I will post those links. So this has been so helpful and challenging people to step up.
Let me put that link in the chat.
And when people refer to our younger generation, people normally want to say, oh, this is our future generation. But really, in addition to that, it's our current generation of influencers. And what this kind of work is doing, and thank you for being a champion of it, it's influencing today's youth who are influencing others. So I would say this has gone above important to critical in our culture. So what do you want to leave people with? And I'll make sure these links are on the page, the interview page for people. So
not to sound too catastrophic, what I want to leave him with is the things in the world that are most threatening to us right now. Another Bay of Pigs potential. The nukes standing by for 75 years with only with 5 near misreadings and near accidental nuclear wars. The fact that we're mismanaging our relationship to planet Earth in very serious ways with the effects we know, and the effects are going to get worse. All that, every bit of that, the struggles in your own life, the struggles in the drug addiction, all the pains you can think of personally and collectively, the racism, etc. All of that derives from how we're trained as childhood and it's past eons to eons, and we got to change that paradigm. And this is the best shot I've seen in my life of how to change. Because first of all, it's been under the radar, although now the right wing is starting to attack it as falsely as critical race theory, which is certainly not. And secondly, it's effective and it shows, and they do it right in the schools. You get these outcomes, and the outcomes themselves carry a huge amount of weight. It's done right and supported to do right, when, comprehensively in schools, not slap on a program here and there. Done right, it's a game changer, a major game changer. And if we get the entire human race operating from the way you see these kids operating, life, the world's an effect. The cause is how we're trained to be in the world, and we're going to get a very different effect than the one we all kind of like. Imagine all the world living life in peace,
That was brilliant coming from that child. Jay Levin, thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching The Nonprofit Exchange.